Welcome. So it has been a really long time since I made a video about TerraForge3D. If you go to my channel, it was about a year ago. So it's time I make another video. And well, in a year, a lot of things has happened about the application, and well, we have some big changes coming for the next version. Now, what I'm going to show in this video is just a preview of what is going to come in the next version, and things might change as this is quite in early stage of development for the next release, right? So first of all, this version of TerraForge 3D has some big changes incorporated in it, so that both the workflow is better as well as the performance is better, right? So before starting, like some things I would like to say about the previous version of TerraForge 3D was that you had the option of exporting terrains to at 4K or 8K, but in reality it was still not generating the data at very high resolution. I mean, it was difficult to do that, and it was kind of scaling it up to like export at a high resolution. So it was good, but not that good, as you won't be getting that much of the details or resolution while exporting it, as well as if it was not very practical, not very feasible to work with very high resolutions even with a good rig or a good machine, because there were issues with the algorithms, there were issues with how the system was structured and stuff with that internally. So in this version of TerraForge 3D, I tried to overcome most of those issues, and now everything is being generated like at high resolution. You can work with very high resolution without letting the application be the limit of the thing you can do, right? So currently, speaking before going into the using the application, currently the only limit of the generation out here is the size of RAM you have on your system and the VRAM on your system if you're working with, let's say, the GPU based generation, right? So if you have got let's say a large amount of RAM, you'll be able to work with any resolution you can, right? So you can see there are a lot of resolutions, like up to these high resolutions are possible. Now this too is just a bug, it will be removed in the final version, right? So you can see you can go to such high resolutions. Now I guess most of people will be working with 4K or 8K or 16K or something like that, right? More than that is kind of impractical, because even storing that data in the hard disk will take a huge amount of this, a huge size, and it will be not very practical, right? It would be better to like break it up into tiles. Now again, this version of TerraForge 3D is more focused on tile generation than any other previous versions. What I mean is, in the previous version, we generated a particular terrain on particular size of the full map at once, and then like split it apart into tiles. Now that was good, but what if we want a huge number of tiles? So that was not practical in that case. So to overcome that, we have moved on to something that is more tile-based approach, right? So currently, you can see the viewport. Whatever we see in the viewport is the current tile. Now the tile resolution out here you can see is 256 by 256. That is the default tile resolution. Right, so here you can see the tile count out here. So if I just increase the tile count, let's say 4, now you can see the map resolution is changed to 1024. That is 4 times 256. That is the resolution of the map we are talking about, right? Okay, now what is the resolution of the map and what is the resolution of the tile, right? So the map is the total size of terrain that we are working with, and the tile is the thing that we are currently seeing on screen, right? Now we can go to a different tile by changing these sliders. So like we can have 0, 1, 2 and 3 out here, and 0, 1, 2 and 3 on the x-axis and the y-axis, right? So that's how. Now we won't be seeing any changes because I have not applied any noise layers, so like everything is flat, so all the tiles are identical right now. We'll be doing that a bit later, right? First of all, as I said, this is the generator in the dashboard window. This is the generator settings. So you've got the tile resolution, the tile count, and the current tile we are on. Now, don't worry, you can export all the tiles together like in a very easy way in this version too. So I'll like in this video, we're not going to talk about exporting stuff or some other stuff. We're going to focus about the generation and the mesh generators and the performance of the application. application, right? We'll be making more videos soon enough about such other topics such as export or rendering stuff or texture generation, stuff like that, right? So one more important thing is now whatever we are seeing on this mesh out here, this viewport out here, is not really the resolution we are generating it at. For example, even if I just choose the tile resolution to be 1024, you can see it's changing to 4096, that is 4K. Now this still is not like showing us at this viewport is still not showing us the mesh at this high resolution, right? To change that, we have to do something like change base resolution. Now you can change the base model, right? What is that? So this is our generation stuff. This is our generation stuff, right? This is the data we are generating. Now it has to be applied to something. Now this version of TerraForge3D also moves on to a completely height map based model to like improve on performance as well as improve on quality, right? We can have a lot more features included in this height map based approach, right? Also we'll be having more features and stuff like that pretty soon, right? Now a change based model is the model we are trying to apply this the displacement or this noise or this terrain to. Now this can be any model. You can like create a sphere, like custom model, and load it up like previous versions of TerraForge3D. And also you can generate some base models like plane, torus, and stuff like that. I'm going to be working with plane in this video, right? So this is the scale and different options. Now you can see the resolution is 256, right? Even so, I can click generate and it's generating the plane. Like we're not getting any pop-up messages or stuff like that, but it is actually generating the plane, right? Now as I said, even if we are generating the terrain tile at 1024 resolution, we are still viewing it at as 256 size. Now why is this important, or how is this useful, right? So sometimes you're wanting to generate at a high resolution because in your final application you will be having you'll be working with high resolution. You need the data, you need the more data, more depth, more resolution, more good quality of data, right? But while working with this, so suppose you're working with say 16K model. Now it's not really ideal to have a 16K mesh out here because that will be taking up a lot of memory, first of all, and secondly, that's going to be slowing your application down. Even with very powerful GPUs, like rendering a model with 16K times 16K vertices will be not very feasible. So we can just change to something like say 1024, and that should be enough for visualizing most of the terrain we will be working on. Now if you are trying to generate the terrain specifically for exporting it as a mesh and high resolution mesh, in that case you can obviously go ahead and change this to something like 4096 and anything you want, right? But I'm gonna switch back to 512. That should be good enough for viewing our normal visualizing what we are working on, right? Now that's about the dashboard, right? Now one more important thing, that is this force update stuff. So before that, let me just set up a noise layer so we can get an idea about how stuff is working. So first I'll be going to start with the GPU noise layers first. We'll be going to the CPU noise layers a bit later, right? Now I'm not going to work with node editors in this video because it will take a long time to set up a good noise, decent looking noise layer in the node editor, right? So in the GPU noise layer, now this is a new UI. So you can see the local group work group size. You can increase it if you might. Sometimes increasing it to too high values might stop that might break your terrain generation. That means making it very high might cause the GPU not to work at all on this particular terrain. So you can just try reducing this number slowly until it works. Now this is basically influencing the performance of your application, right? If you decrease it too low, the terrain generation will be slow. If you increase it too high, it might be slow or fast or not work at all. This is something you have to tune it according to your own system, right? Now next thing is the edit layers button. If you click this, again, like the previous versions of TerraForge3D, you have got this GPU noise layer editor. Now I'm going to dock it out here, right? Now we can see there are a lot of settings out there. Now first thing first, if you notice, this is a new set method, right? This is a new thing that has popped up in this version. What is that? Well, you know, set method is something that is important, because let's see this. Let's just say we'll change. Now one thing, sometimes if you don't see, even after adding, like we have got our noise layers, even after adding we don't see the changes update. Just update something and you will see the changes being applied. Now one more thing I will be doing before going into it a bit further. Yeah, right. So yeah, just change something and it will you'll be seeing the changes being applied out here. Okay, now one thing out here you can notice is that we are trying to generate for a 256 model. Let's say do 256. Okay, generate. Yeah, right. Now what I want to do is I've got a basic noise layer out here. That is, let's add some more details to it, right? More octaves to it. Yeah, right. That looks nice. Now we can change, like we've got 4 tiles, so we can now move in the tiles, right? And okay, then click generate out here. You can see regenerate out here, so it will be regenerate, like applying the changes. Now in the final version, just changing the current tiles should do that too, right? Now I can move this tile and click regenerate, and you see the next tile is being generated. Now I can reduce the tile count, and you see it's automatically regenerating. And there are some here small bugs here and there. We'll be fixing those up pretty soon, right? Now this is the total terrain. Now you can split it up into tiles, more and more tiles, and it's getting like we kind of zooming in. But not only we are getting like we are also getting the more like more data out here with more, because we're working with a more high resolution out here, right? So out you can see it's 6144. Now I'll make it at 1 tile, because you know I want to see the entire terrain out together. And right now you might be noticing something different in the way the terrain is being shown, the rendering stuff. You know, the renderer has been completely changed too, and will be I'll be making a video on the renderer and how the new rendering pipeline works. You know, it has been like previously it was a lot cluttered up and stuff, and I tried to clean that up and make the UI a bit more simple and easy to understand. So I'll be making a video on that later, right? Now out here, if I just try to change some things, you can see the thing is updating in real time. Now okay, this is 1K resolution, right? Now we can see the set method is being set to set. If I just change it to add, you can see every time it's been generating, it's adding to that terrain. I mean, it's blowing up. So you can always remember that the GPU layers are GPU noise layers are executed, then the CPU noise layers, then the CPU node editors, right? So firstly, whatever you making at the first GPU noise layer or the first CPU noise layer, if there are no GPU noise layers, change the set mode to set. Otherwise, your terrain mesh will blow up badly. Okay, now I am just setting up this is the good default mesh. Now I'm just closing it up. And one more thing, important thing out here is, you know, in the previous versions of TerraForge3D, the mesh was continuously updated, and that was kind of wasteful. You know, it was both consuming power as well as consuming the CPU and GPU resources. For example, if I just open up Task Manager, you can see my GPU is at 18%, and the CPU is at 18% too. It's pretty low. Now, if I just go ahead and like go to Edit Layers, and if I just change something out here, you can see the GPU usage will be slightly shooting up. Now I'm not doing anything complicated out here, so it's not that, but if I just go ahead and say add a CPU noise layer, which would be putting a strain on the CPU, go ahead and edit it. Let's say add FPM and enable it, right? A little more octaves. Okay, you can see whenever I'm changing something, you can see the CPU usage shoots up, right? So what is this? It's basically only updating the terrain mesh whenever required. So it's intelligently updating the terrain mesh. So it's kind of saving your power and your CPU usage, as well as you know, the application is less prone to getting frozen or stuck, right? So out here, that was about the noise layer. Now if I just add another noise layer, and like the thing about the set method, if I just go ahead and dock it up, you know, the set method is set. Now if I just go ahead and change something out here, now it's not applied, right? If I just change something, it will be applied, right? You see the previous noise layer is lost. It's not lost. What happened is this noise layer did something, and this noise layer overwrote it, right? To apply, and like you can have several operations between these two noise layers. For example, addition, I'm adding those two noise layers. You see, yeah, I'm adding those two noise layers, right? Okay, I can do multiplication, subtraction. I'm subtracting those two noise layers. I can do multiplication. I'm multiplying these two noise layers. This looks pretty cool, right? You know, this looks pretty cool. Okay, this looks pretty cool, I guess. I can move this a bit more. Okay, if I just increase the strength out here, yep. This looks pretty cool, you know. Right, now I can change a lot of stuff out here. I can change this fractal. I can change the number of octaves out here too. I can do a lot of stuff, but I guess I like this particular stuff. The first one, yeah, this one, right? This is good enough for me for this video, I guess. We're not trying to generate something pretty cool or very pretty out here. We're just trying to get the UI and the system. So I'm closing this up now. About the work, like one more interesting thing you can see out here is Windows and Work Manager. Right? In the previous version of TerraForge3D, we didn't really understand how we couldn't really see or control how the generation was working behind the scenes. Now that was good, like kind of abstracted way, but you know, it was not the best way to do it, because currently we have all these settings we need to optimize the stuff, optimize your workflow, like optimize your terrain generation speed way more. For example, what I mean is, currently TerraForge3D has also some additions about that. Currently, previously we only supported one GPU at a time and like a single worker thread for generating the terrain, but currently we have multiple worker threads on the CPU. Like you can utilize multiple CPUs for generating the terrain, as well as multiple GPUs, which is a pretty rare feature, I guess. Right, so if we go ahead and see the info in this Work Manager window, we can see the GPUs out here. That is, I got two, like one the dedicated graphics card and one the integrated graphics card that is coming with my processor. Now I'll be coming to that integrated graphics card a bit later. Right, firstly, if you can see the work status window, this is the basically the work. Firstly, there is the subtile size. There is some information out there, the GPU total GPU time, total CPU time, total upload time. What is total GPU time? The total GPU time is the total time taken by the GPU for generating the terrain. Total CPU time is total time taken by the CPU. But here we can see the total CPU time is very low, because we don't really have a CPU noise layer out here or CPU node data out here. We only have GPU noise layers. Now even at 1K, we can see it's only taking 42 milliseconds, and it's pretty fast. Now we can see different tiles. Now these are the several tiles. You can see if I just change something, if I just bring that up pretty quick, yeah, that's right. If I just change something, you can see we are actually like working in blocks, right? You can see the blocks being updated. So these are the blocks. So you can see their colors are being changed. The green means the work is done. The red means it's not done. There are the different meanings for each color. Right, now you can see these values are updating too whenever we are changing. Now these are the 16 out of 16 tiles. What is the subtile size? Subtile tile size is for, like, this is a one tile, right? From here we selected that this was one tile, the tile resolution. Now subtile sizes, subtiles, like this tile is being divided into multiple small subtiles to like efficiently generate them parallelly on the system, right? So we can see the subtile size currently is 256. If I just say make it 512, we can see we have got 4 subtiles. I can go ahead and make it 64. You can see we have got 256 subtiles, and see different way it's generating. Now how it's working is quite a complicated architecture working behind that, like multiple work managers allocating jobs to multiple threads. Now you can see like this is up to you to tune based on your system to get the maximum performance, right? By default, the default values are good enough for the default terrains, for basic terrains, but as we go advanced and more high level, like more complicated stuff, you know, you should ideally tune these values to something more like suitable for your system. So currently 64 is not a good idea, because you see the GPU time is quite high, because you know the GPU can work on the small like one rule of thumb is that you should remember is GPU can work with, like, GPU should ideally work with large chunks of data, and CPU should work with small chunks of data. So when we are passing the GPU small chunks of data, it's finishing it very fast, but you know there are so many chunks that it's like the timing is being wasted between the synchronization of the chunks. So if I go ahead and increase to something like 512, you can see from 400 milliseconds to it's going to 17 milliseconds. By the way, these all these values are in milliseconds, right? Right, so if I just go ahead and see the GPU worker settings, so these are the GPU workers. This is the first GPU worker. Now this is the device, this current state. So if I just change something, you see the state being updated. Now there is a button called change device. You can right click on this, right? You cannot left click, you have to right click on this, and you can see the available devices. So if I just change it up, now this is not that powerful of a GPU. So if I just go ahead and see, you can see the time increased. Now I can choose I'll choose my dedicated graphics card. You can see it's being updated in real time, right? Now one thing is, ideally you will have something like set up like two graphics, if you have got two graphics cards, even if it is not a dedicated graphics card, you'll have this GPU worker count to set to 2. Now the issue with this is currently we are having a bug. If we have got multiple GPU workers, you know, these kinds of artifacts are being left around. So we are working on that. But one more thing about I'm going to talk about is, you know, in case we are having two GPUs, you can see the performance is 39 milliseconds. If I just go ahead and increase this to something like 4K to like get a better idea of performance, you can see it takes about 2 seconds or 2403 milliseconds. So if I just see with two GPU workers, it's taking this much time. Now if I just go ahead and make it 1, you can see and just let's say change something, you can see it's happening pretty faster. It's taking only 1/10 of the time. What is that? Why is that? You know, whenever we are having two GPU threads, let's say 2, yeah, let's make it 2, yeah, whenever we're having two GPU threads, you know what is happening is that this is not that good, so this is dragging the other one down. So you have to be careful of these stuff and work your set your stuff around properly so that you can have the optimal performance and optimal performance out of this, right? So you can see I've got two GPU threads, and you know, both are NVIDIA, and still it's not being not that fast because, you know, synchronization is kicking in. So ideally, if you've got one powerful graphics card, you can just choose that. Now if you've got multiple graphics cards, now you can do 2 and then change it to select the most powerful graphics cards only, right? That would be the ideal ideal for your performance. Also, I guess I'll be increasing this to something like 1024. Yeah, that's good, right? Okay, now that's it about the GPU worker status. Now if I just close it up, we can have the CPU workers. Now CPU workers, there are a lot of CPU workers. Currently, by default number of CPU workers are the number of threads your computer has -1. You could ideally go up to something, you should ideally set it to something around the number of workers, number of threads your computer have, or else, you know, you might get some laggy performance on your computer. But you can actually set it up to 64. Like if I just go ahead and maximum value is 64. Ideally, you should do something around the number of cores you've got, number of threads you've got on your system. So it's 12. Now let's add some CPU noise layers. So yeah, this one, I'll add this up. Okay, okay. Now what I need to do is I'll add a mountain node here. Okay, or not mountain. Let's say a noise layer, simple noise layer. Yeah, it's updated, like replacing that completely with the set mode. So you can just change it to add. I want to add that up, or rather multiply should be better. Yup, I guess that's good. Or rather, let's do add, and then let's change this square and let's do FPM. Okay, okay, that looks cool, I guess. That looks cool, I guess. Yeah, that looks cool. So you can go ahead and change the offsets slowly, and yeah, it's updating in real time, right? So it's updating in real time, and we can change stuff and see how it affects our terrain. Now let's see about let's check about the performance of this. Now ideally, what I suggest is for stuff like when you're working with something that is under 4K or like ideally 1K or 2K, you can use CPU noise layers. But when we are going something beyond 2K, ideally you should use only GPU noise layers. Now currently we don't have a node editor on GPU, but by the time I guess this releases, I plan to have a GPU node editor too. So ideally, for anything above 4K, whenever your tile resolution is above 4K, you should have only GPU noise layers. That's, you'll get better performance with that. You can have CPU noise layers, it will work efficiently, but performance is better with that. you can see the CPU is taking a lot of time. The CPU is taking a lot of time. So if I go ahead and change this, check the settings. Okay, edit. One more thing is, like, if I go ahead and change this, you can see the CPU is taking a lot of time. The blue means the GPU is done and the CPU is waiting. So GPU is finishing in 200 milliseconds, but this is taking about 16,000 milliseconds, right? That is not a good idea to have, right? Okay, so speaking out here, if we just go ahead and change this to some, decrease this for CPU, you know, the CPU performance will increase like that, kind of. Okay, let's see. Yeah, you can see the CPU performance improved by decreasing that, but the GPU performance decreased. So ideally you should have like, if you're working with CPU noise layers only, if I disable the GPU stuff, okay, let it update properly. Yeah, but yes, I'll delete the GPU stuff currently completely. Yeah, it's set to add. I'll set it to set, and yeah, okay. Now yeah, we got the terrain. Now we have got only CPU stuff. You can see we can, if if we decrease this a bit, and we'll get different performances. Okay, if I just decrease it even more, you know, 4K, we're currently working with 4K, and CPU is not the ideal choice for this, but you can see we're still getting smooth, almost real-time performance. Okay, now if we go ahead and go to something like, if we increase this to something like 512, you can see we're still working with that in almost real time. Now if I go ahead and go to 8K, we'll be seeing that CPU noise layers really suck with high resolutions, because your CPU is not ideal for very high resolutions. You see, there are so many tiles to work on. Okay, it's gonna take a lot of time. That is not very good. It's taking a lot of time. Now if I just go to 2K, you can see it's perfect with this. CPU noise layers are perfect with this. You know, so you have to adjust accordingly about what suits your needs the best. So I'll be working with GPU noise layers and going to something like 8K, because now 8K is the maximum my computer's memory can handle, because I've got 16 gigs of RAM, and you know, 8K is the maximum 16 gigs of RAM can handle properly. After that, you know, computer might get like, the RAM will be filling up and pulling the other things down. The processing speed is not a factor at all. You know, like, we can easily process 8K images on GPU. Like, I've got this 8K map. Let's move it to 8K, right? Okay, we've got this 8K map. You know, this is bad. Let's just do it something like, let's wait for it to finish. Yeah, and move it to something like 2048, and boom, we've got our 8K model. And we can just go ahead and let's say edit layers, and I can edit it in almost real time. Okay, go ahead to the global offsets, and you can see I'm editing it in real time, working with 8K tiles in real time. So the speed is not the issue, the memory is the only issue. If I go ahead and show you the memory, you can see my RAM is filled up currently, and my GPU is kind of half filled up. Right, GPU memory is efficient, like, used kind of conservatively. You know, we are trying to break things up in small tiles to save GPU memory itself, but the global memory, you have to store the thing somewhere. So global memory is really a pull back for your system. So if you have got 32 gigs of RAM, I guess you could go ahead and change this to 16K, and if you've got more, you can do it more, right? So this is about the generation, about the terrain generation of this new version. Now I'll be making videos about the new updates. For example, in this version there are multiple viewports, there is a new texture generator, there is a new renderings of stuff. Like, you know, previous versions had sky renderer, sea renderer, and all those scattered up around. Now you didn't really have IBL, like environment based lighting and stuff like that. All that is being addressed in this version. So we'll have you can see there is a specific rendering settings in there. I'm not going to show much of this in this video. I'll be like showing this more in the next video. And so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you want to follow this project, you can go to the GitHub page of TerraForge3D, or if I open that up, okay, you can go to the GitHub page for TerraForge3D. That is this one. Okay, if you go ahead to the GitHub page, you can download it from this link. Now whatever I showed out here is not released, so it will release soon enough, so don't worry about that, I guess. Now you can see you can join the Discord server of TerraForge3D to get updates about TerraForge3D's regular development, and start the repository. And if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.